What was that song? Was it this? Yeah, always good to have a little tunage at the beginning, right? Yeah, I'm gonna work on rocking out at the beginning. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back. I gotta push some buttons over here. This microphone is all weird right now. What's up? What's up? It's a Monday. I hope you all are having a beautiful, lovely, blustery, beautimous Monday out there. It's okay. Here, I have to say. Got ourselves some nice weather. Can't complain too much, but tomorrow, the rain returns. Whoa. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Sand Creeks says, I got no audio. Well, that's weird. Let's check my audio. Audio settings correct. I'm getting a read. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like somebody has their stuff muted. Well, anyhow, back to what we were doing. It is, yeah, I think as some people have noticed, it is 420 for the people out there that celebrate it. Hopefully you're safe wherever you are. We are still in lockdown quarantine out here in Western Washington in the United States. We are still locked down in the old quarantine. I believe our quarantine is currently scheduled for 2 more weeks. It's currently scheduled to the 4th of May is how long we're supposed to be quarantined here. I don't know how long it's going to last for reals. I don't know, guys. I don't know how long it's going to last. But I have noticed that a lot of people out there running around in the street trying to protest a virus away. I don't know. I don't know. It's a little bit boggling to me. And I don't think it's going to help. I don't think it's helping. I don't think it's helping anything. I don't think it's helping anybody that's doing the protesting. I don't think it's helping anybody that's, I don't think it's helping the situation at all, my guy. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it does not seem helpful. I would love to see some people protest by voting. That's what I would like to see. Like, that's what I would definitely love to see. Fishy Fun says, I was listening to the daily Alberta update. Our crude is trading at -0. I didn't know how that can be. Yes, crude oil and oil futures right now are currently trading at, I think I saw it was like -40 a barrel or something like that. Yeah, it literally is below zero right now. So, yeah. That's a thing that can happen out there in the world. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm a green enthusiast. I am one of those guys that loves solar power, solar energy, wind energy, water, all the alternative fuels. I am pretty excited about them. And I'm also excited about, I'm excited about water turbines. Hydroelectric is what they normally call it. I'm excited about that. I will likely be taking another tour this year, I hope, if we can get out of the quarantine. I don't know. We shall see if I'm able to get on a hydroelectric tour or not. It was kind of the plan, but we shall see. But I'm also a big fan of nuclear energy also, but we definitely need to bring that infrastructure up. As a perfect example, in my neck of the woods, so out here in western Washington, there is a very, 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 very important bridge that runs from Seattle to West Seattle. It connects a very, very pretty much important parts of the city, and it's broken, and it will likely never open again, because I guess even if they can fix it, it's going to take like 2 years to fix it. So I would imagine that most people are thinking that they're going to rebuild the bridge. Well, the reason I bring that up in correlation to the nuclear energy thing is that a lot of our nuclear power plants and stuff like that are just as crummy as that relatively new bridge that is broken. So that's always kind of the downside of that whole situation. But hydroelectric also has downsides and all that. But yeah, the fossil fuel industry is in a lurch. It's in a big time lurch. And, you know, I don't have the solution. I am not an expert. So I would recommend finding some experts in alternate fuels that I think we should be investing in. I think that's what we should be doing. I don't know. That's just me, though. I did notice when I was looking around on my Amazon affiliate stuff. Oops, that's not what I was going to try to put in there. I was looking around on the Amazon affiliate thing, and speaking of technology, I noticed that somebody had ordered some Apple AirPods. Now, you guys know that I am a Android guy, so this had never really crossed my mind to ever advertise people buying these earphones. But I did get an opportunity to try these out a while ago before the pandemic. And I have to admit that if you have an iPhone, you should definitely get these. And if you're going to get them, buy them through my link, because it helps, FTC regulation says I have to tell you if you buy stuff through an Amazon link, yes, it supports the show monetarily. So that's the disclosure. And if you're going to get them through there. I didn't even realize, it wasn't something that had crossed my mind, but I was reviewing the Amazon stuff today, and I noticed, like, hey, somebody bought AirPods. I bet you people lose those a lot or break them or whatever. I don't know about their durability or anything like that, so never know. Bentley Pascal says, you're familiar with Turbulent? Yes, the water turbine power company from Belgium. I've always been curious how many turbines it would take to power enough pumps to make a lazy river system run and generate power beyond its cost. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that, Bentley, when you were here. We definitely discussed some of that stuff, and I'm interested in the small scale things. So I do know a fair bit about solar energy and wind and water, like the real small systems. But those are all basically like, how do you power a home and stuff like that. I don't really know how to turn it into a car or how to turn it into a train. I mean, I get the process behind it, but I'm definitely not the expert that people are looking for when it comes to converting everything over. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to do a giant one. I'm literally over here stressed out of my mind about potentially spending $2,000 on a camera lens. So talking about a $200 billion infrastructure thing, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's all a matter of perspective. Like, I've worked on big projects, but when I say big projects, I mean like with air quotes around it, like $100,000 jobs, $60,000, $180,000, $200,000 remodels, stuff like that. I mean, I've worked on big projects, but I've never, figured out the logistics for a giant hydroelectric dam other than getting to look at them in person, like, whoa, that's rad, and talk to the experts for 5 minutes, if that. But let's get down to some brass tacks. On a Monday, we got to check in with our count here. of our support of the show, because that's the beginning, part of the beginning of the show. We had some major fluctuations in our YouTube memberships, and unfortunately, guys, we are not closer to 100. We are, in fact, going the other direction, down to 89 now. Man, we got up at one point to like 95, I think. Now we're down to 89. I don't know what happened. Hopefully everybody out there is doing okay, and it's not like, people have some kind of crisis going on other than this pandemic situation. So, but I want to say a big shout out to the 89 people supporting on the YouTube memberships, and the Patreon. I'm happy to report Patreon is going in the upward momentum up to 246. A couple people fixed their old credit cards there. So that works out. Thank you very much, everybody, for supporting, and we shall continue moving on with the show, because today is about how plants are awesome. And one of the big reasons I was kind of talking about the green energy and all that kind of stuff and kind of weaving it into what I wanted to talk about, plants being awesome, is that is one renewable source that I know how to kind of deal with. I would not even consider myself an expert. I'm just one of those guys that's middle-aged and been as busy as I possibly could be with learning things, building projects, getting my hands dirty, and doing that kind of stuff my whole life. So I'm one of the experienced guys. I go and look up what experts bring to the table. Whenever I have contact with experts, I try to glean as much information from them as I can. And that's just kind of like a little bit of who I am. Now, plants being a renewable source, one of the things that we want to do in the aquarium hobby, like in this aquascaping specific portion of the aquarium hobby, we are trying to maintain not an annual system, we are trying to maintain spring. We're not trying to maintain winter. We're not trying to maintain fall. We're not really trying to maintain summer, although I think people would be under the impression that, like, oh, we're trying to replicate the summer season. Nope. What we're realistically trying to do is replicate spring. That's one of the reasons that we bring in CO2 into the system, so that there is enough CO2 availability to readily photosynthesize as if the plant has been dormant and that now it is time to grow fervently, feverishly, and get ready to flower and try to send out seed and continue to propagate as if summer was coming, right? Now, my systems are built that way under the idea that I'm maintaining springtime. That's my goal. So that's, if I was trying to relate to somebody else out there, what I'm doing with my aquascapes and my aquariums, to something that would be relatable in the terrestrial realm, I'm trying to relate to them that I'm creating late spring, right? Not early spring. I don't want that early spring. Sometimes it's raining and sometimes it's cold and that kind of stuff. I want that late peak springtime growth period, which is, in my opinion, my favorite time of the year anyhow, right? So not only am I replicating kind of my favorite time of year, I'm replicating, not only am I replicating my favorite time of year, I'm replicating my favorite time of year. So when I'm talking to terrestrial farmers, terrestrial plant keepers, that kind of stuff, that's what I'm trying to parallel into the aquarium, because the aquarium hobby doesn't have that much literature, if that makes sense. There are a few books that you could get your hands on, and I've definitely shared a lot of those out with you guys. There are definitely a few books. There's a few experts around the world. I mean, realistically, you could, if you had a list of like 500 people, you'd probably have a pretty comprehensive list of most of the aquatic plant experts in the world, which is a monumentally slim, tiny, microscopic portion of humanity. I don't know if somebody out there could divide like 500 into 7.7 billion. I don't even know remotely what that percentage would be, but it is essentially microscopic. So one of the things that I try to help bring to the table is experience and correlate that into how could somebody translate that into their aquarium and then translate their aquarium into their regular life. I was kind of talking about this the other day, whether or not I'm going to do this aquaponics greenhouse or not. And I'm thinking that I still haven't made my decision if I'm going to be able to do it or not. But that decision is going to have to wait because I'm basically going to be ordering a bunch of concrete. I'm going to get some concrete delivered, the liquid form, in a truck. And I'm going to see what the availability is on how I can kind of pigtail onto that. Now, if I can, then I will probably end up doing that project at some point in time. But what I can say is that I am currently working on a small-scale project that you guys will be able to do in your home, in your garage, wherever your fish tanks are. And I'm kind of excited for doing that, and also one of the reasons that I'm going to continue doing those projects is because I think that this virus is most likely going to keep going on for a long time. Now, I know that some of the virologists out there are expecting us to run all the way into fall with this continually, like, with the ebb and flow and whatnot of this virus coming back. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to have a vaccine in time, and hopefully there'll be a therapy at some point in time that actually is effective and has been tested and has been approved. And we do have some studies whether or not it actually works or not. And we're not just like stealing medicine out of like lupus patients' hands without knowing whether or not something is effective. But if that is the case, I would like you guys to have like at least a little bit of something set up for the fall, for the summertime, for something that you could be emulating springtime for yourselves. And so I am kind of working on getting that done. I think I'm probably about 50% of the way there, which is good because the other 50% is all downhill. Now it's all just like kind of the setup and filming it and doing all that. But yeah, that's ultimately kind of like my plan right now. And now as far as the big project goes, I know that like some people were pretty amped about it, but I haven't been able to figure out how to get that going at this point or not. Now, how does that relate to plants are awesome? I don't know, but that's today's topic, so we'll move on. But one thing that did happen today during the 420 extravaganza that's going on today, Canon Cameras has released a gigantic amount of equipment will be coming out this year, and I do have to admit that is a little bit on my mind right now of what's going on with all those Canon cameras that are coming out. I'm a little bit excited. I'm also a little apprehensive about what it is that they're releasing and what's going to be coming out, and we shall see. We're still just kind of in a waiting game with that whole nonsense, but man, I tell you, that R5 camera that is coming out is kind of wild. It's kind of wild that they seems like they put everything in it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I don't know. If that thing is like $6 or $7 grand, I don't think I'm ever gonna lay my hands on it. But I am hoping that the rest of the release that's happening right now, hopefully, will be pretty cool. The Zen Ginger says, "All hail the M50." Yeah, the M50 has There's a new M50 coming out this year. There's two M series cameras that are coming out also. There's the M50 Mark II, and I believe the other one is the M6 Mark II or Mark III or something. I don't know. I know that the M50 has a new version of it coming out this year. There's an M50 Mark II. So the R5 is coming out. The R6 seems like it was, from on paper, the R6 was probably going to be the camera that I wanted to get, the cheaper one, but it seemed like it was geared towards video. But the R5 apparently has 8K video and all this stuff included in it as far as video goes. So now I'm kind of wondering what the R6 is, if that's not the case. But I still am in a waiting pattern to even find out what is going on with all that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Canon comes out with, but who knows? Pungy Pain says, you do not pay me enough to do maths. Sorry. Well, nobody seems to have come up with the percentage, so it'll remain a mystery. It's very small, though. Don't let my secret out. Bentley Pascal is looking for a perpetual motion machine. I could put you in touch with my cousin, maybe. He was building some of those, what do you call those? What do you call those green homes? They call them some kind of starship or Earthship? Earthship. Yeah, that's what they are. He was building Earthships and stuff, and he was working on some perpetual motion machine magnets and fans and all that weird nonsense that he was building. I don't know what it was for, but he was doing one of those. Yeah. Sharpie's Models and Aquatics never beat a Kodak Instamatic or a Box Brownie. Okay, well, that's just goofy. Hotea Marianne says lens is more important than the camera. I mean, I think that is true to a certain extent. There's a lot of lenses out there now that are quite good. You know, it's kind of one of those things, like lens manufacturing is all automated now. So if somebody's actually just putting the parts together that are reasonable, that it used to be more so that like the lens was the most important part and the body wasn't that important. But now there's just like so much technology, right? Like a cell phone, like there's so much technology built into the camera body that you can have a middling lens and get really good quality out of stuff. But it really did used to be like you had to have a high-end lens, otherwise you weren't going to get a good image. But nowadays with the like I was saying, like the sensor technology and the technology that's built into the processing and in the camera body itself, it does a lot. So yeah. Sharpie's Models Aquatics Stirling engine is about as close to a perpetual motion machine as you can get at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm deeply invested in. Like I said, my cousin was always super excited about that stuff. You know, I mean, it's kind of his thing and other people's thing, but it's not really mine. Dan Squire says the lens is still king. Yeah, in a way. I mean, but the reality is like, I've even, you know, in a way. So somebody did a comparison of that a while ago. So they took a 5D Mark IV and they put the cheapest lens that they could find on it, basically. And then they took the really high-end glass and stuck that onto, I don't remember what camera it was, but it was some really low-end, cheap camera. And the reality is, even the super cheap lens on the 5D Mark IV was still getting relatively good images. Like, it wasn't good, but it was still, like, relatively good. Like, you could, I mean, there was clarity to the picture. Like, you're like, oh, that's what that is. I can tell what's going on. But then they just put a middling lens on there, you know, like a $600, $700 lens, something like that. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's fantastic. You know, so it's kind of one of those things like they build technology into lenses and stuff to make them more expensive, but it's not really that much better or not. Well, here's a good example. I got a great example for you right here. So this is the Canon version of a 100 millimeter macro lens, which I like, but it is noisy. It pulls focus a little weird sometimes and blah, blah, blah. Now here's the Tamron version that's a 90 millimeter instead of 100 millimeter, which really isn't that big of a variation when you're doing macro photography. They're both 1-to-1 ratio. Great. They're both f2.8, so the same f-stop. This one's like $800. This one is like $600. Which of course I bought both of them used. I didn't buy them new. But one's a little more expensive. It's got the Canon name on it, basically. They both have autofocus. I just don't use the Tamron one that much anymore because it's heavier. So that's really the trade-off. Like, you could save $300 or $200. But the main difference in this lens is just that it's heavier. It's just a chunkier, heavy piece of glass. I mean, it's a nice lens. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just heavy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a heavy piece of glass. So it's like the Canon one's more expensive, even though it does the same thing. It's just lighter weight. Fishy Fun says we need Tesla back on Earth. Yeah. Like Nikolai Tesla? I mean, I don't know. He was a weirdo for sure. He was in love with a pigeon, So that's kind of odd. I don't know how Nikolai Tesla could exist in this world and not be just antagonized constantly. Michael Allen says, I swear I'm just growing plants immersed, nothing illegal going on here. Well, we typically normally refer to that on this channel as, air quote, basement tomatoes. If you are somebody who is doing that kind of stuff, if you're growing basement tomatoes, the aquarium hobby is a great place to jump off to really start learning about it. In where I live, growing basement tomatoes is not illegal. I live in Washington State. It's not illegal here, so I would never give anybody the recommendation to do anything illegal that could get you in trouble with the police and jail and all that. I don't recommend it. It's not a fun place to be. But the aquarium hobby, aquascaping and stuff like that is a wonderful complement and a great spot to learn about growing basement tomatoes. I wouldn't go the other way, personally. I would start learning about growing aquarium plants and working on those things. It's a much easier way. It's a much less stressful way to deal with stuff because you don't have all of the peripheral nonsense that you're going to have to deal with. But it will definitely put you in a position that you will be, you'll have a full toolkit to go into, growing food for your family. So, like I said, it's not illegal here. So I'm not really endorsing it if it's illegal in your area, but if it is, growing emergent plants in some aquascape and stuff like that is a great way to go about it. Learning, for sure. Maybe she means mannequin that Elon launched into space in his roadster. That, I guess that, I mean, it could be the mannequin. It could be the mannequin that's out there. Yeah. Dan Squire says, don't use aquarium ferts, though. Yeah, but the aquarium fertilization has a lot of parallels. It's just with basement tomatoes, those proportions are through the roof. So you're not really going to be at the same levels, right? The basement tomato water levels fertilization is through the roof. It's toxic. Don't drink it. Don't let it dry on your hands. That kind of stuff. But you know, it is what it is. When you're growing basement tomatoes, you got to be a little aggressive because you got to have them grow quick so you can make a good marinara. You know what I mean? You cannot legally grow your own basement tomatoes in Washington unless you have a commercial license to produce for approved retail outlets. You can get a personal permit, from what I understand. You can, if you have a medical card, you need to make sure that you only have 4 adolescent, 4 starts, and 4 mature plants. Though I think that's what it is. I'm not giving legal advice here or anything like that. But I think that's what it is. I mean, I wouldn't personally get involved with doing that myself at this point because, I'm a sober guy. I've got almost 6 years sober, and so I'm not involved with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is legal here, so it's like, I mean, if I was growing actual basement tomatoes, it's legal. You just you do have to. I think you just have to go through a real quick. I think you just have to get your card. Yeah, you just have to get your medicinal card or something like that, and you can't sell it, obviously. Tank says it was more fun when it was illegal. I don't know. It was more profitable, that's for sure. I don't know that it was more fun. I think it was equally as fun. Mainly because I just like growing plants, whatever they are. We do have starts going out in our garden, and I started putting in the initial irrigation layout yesterday. I laid a bunch of pipe. I laid a bunch of pipe out in our garden out there, getting the irrigation going. Ran into kind of snafu because I'm trying to do a different thing with the soaker hoses this year. So, and we were planning on doing a ton of garden vlogs and stuff like that this year, but I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. This virus has got Vicky and I working. We're basically working 20 hours a day. We have no daycare for the baby. Vicky's working her job. I'm working my jobs as much as I can. I'm not doing any side jobs like remodeling people's houses or anything like that right now because you can't even go to anyone else's house. So you know what I mean? But I am doing my production work for the Aquarium Co-op, so I'm building plant racks and all that kind of stuff here in my shop. And we don't have any daycare for the baby, so the baby's here all the time, being one and running amok. She's awesome. Love her to death. I posted a shot of her onto Instagram, kind of an artsy picture of her onto Instagram. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you can go check that out. People always ask me, they're like, do you have an updated picture of Olivia? And I'm like, no, man, I like the 2-month-old. I don't even know if that's 2 months. Maybe she's like 2 months in that. I like the 2-month-old baby up in the corner there. And, all my weird accoutrement all over the screen here. That's just kind of how I like to do it. But, it is what it is. Yeah, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, so the irrigation, I kind of ran into a slight issue because I'm trying to do some different work with some soaker hoses. And, we were trying to do more garden vlog videos this year. We really wanted to launch that. But right now with all the work to, pay all the bills and stuff is just adding in that extra film and editing time. I don't have editing time. That's really, my issue. As you guys probably noticed this last weekend, that's, the simplest editing that I can do into a video. And I don't know if people liked it or not. I mean, it seems like people were hitting the like button or whatever. But I did talk about this on, on the show. I think on Friday I was talking about it on the show or maybe it was maybe it was last Monday or something. But, people were asking man, we want to see more edited videos. Don't do as many live streams. Now, obviously, the live streams take prep. I have to prep the thumbnail, and I have to put all the stuff into YouTube and all that, and get everything ready to go, and get all the lights going, and get the mic check, and get the software running and blah, 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 blah. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I still have to do to get a live stream going. Now, one of the interesting parts of doing a live stream that I don't think people know that somebody like me get from doing the live stream, and that's being able to have a conversation back and forth with some other adults. I mean, obviously, I don't get to talk to you guys, but I do get to get messages from you and then have some kind of outlet to just be like, hey, man, I'm here. I'm still alive. I'm not dead. So it is nice to be able for me to have some engagement that isn't talking to a 1-year-old or trying to coordinate with Vicky so that she can go to work, because her office here, which I built out a new desk for her in her office. She has her whole office set up, so now she's like runs upstairs, makes calls, sends emails, does all that stuff, and then 2 hours later comes down, and then I immediately, because we like take care of, you're taking care of Olivia, and then it's like you try to go jump back into work, and then you're working, and then you come back, and it's just it's a fair bit, and it is nice to be able to like come on here and talk with you guys and like answer some questions. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, and just talk with you guys about stuff. Man, we got our first super chat of the day. I kind of forgot super chats were a thing. We got a £5 super chat from a man, Dan Squires, asking, does this still work? Apparently, I hadn't realized. I wasn't even thinking about super chats or anything like that. But yeah, it appears like it's still working, I think, as far as I can tell. But much appreciated, my guy. But yeah, it looks like it's working. Yeah, okay. And likes on this are only 36. Man, that's insufficient, I think. I don't mean to be rude. Let's see. I would expect Joel would grow some amazing tomatoes after seeing his tank. Yeah, yep. Michael Allen, here in Missouri, everything is illegal. That's right. Yeah, I've been out to Missouri a few times, and yeah, it's a real tight ship out there in Missouri. All just running a real tight ship out there. It's a weird part of the country. I will admit that Missouri's kind of unique and a little bit strange. And I think Vicky and I even considered moving out there because property is so cheap. I mean, we could have bought a house for like $12,000. Like a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house for like $12,000, which is, it's kind of bringing the thought back into my head of like, man, maybe we should just move to Missouri. Because I'll tell you this, the house across the street from here just sold for $350,000. So, just kind of gives you an idea in the part of the world I live. I live in a neighborhood where your likelihood of getting robbed is much higher than 0. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I like where I live. It's pretty comfortable. A lot of nice people around here. You can't go too far out of your way to like have those real wild interactions with people. You know what I'm saying? It's a little squirrely. But yeah, then houses around here are $350,000 for a house built in the 40s. Big D Smoke, my 3-bedroom house just got assessed for $280K. Yeah, which means it would probably sell for $350. Yeah, it's about around $350. Normally the county assessments are behind. They go low for the tax assessments. Punchy Paint says support the show on Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/JOEL_C. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, why not? Why not? We moves the counter over here, you know what I mean? Like this counter starts changing. But Joel G with a $2 New Zealand dancing human sticker thing. I don't know what that is. What is going on with that? Does it like spread your wings and fly away? I don't know. It's bizarre. Juggling childcare while discussing basement tomatoes with your fishy frowns. That's right. Barbara Jackson says, I feel bad for my son-in-law. He had just gotten started with his tattoo business. Of course, no way to tattoo from 6 feet away. Yes, but there should likely be some decent relief for small businesses out there. The best thing I could recommend people to do right now, if you have a small business, is apply for some of the forgiveness programs that are out there. It's basically, if you didn't make it in on the first wave, they're going to pass another bill. They're going to pass another bill to get that forgiveness thing brought back again. But basically what you'd want to do as a business owner is apply for that loan and pay yourself while you're furloughed, basically. Like, you can't go to work. You can't work at your business, but pay yourself a wage, so you're basically going to have to hire yourself as an employee, pay yourself a wage so you can get forgiveness for that at the end of the year. Also, talk to your landlord. Almost every business, commercial landlord will do something in a situation like this. You can probably figure something out. Last thing that commercial spaces want to do is just kick people out and then have to get new tenants. It is monumentally difficult to get new tenants, especially like if there's a depression. There's not gonna be a whole bunch of new tenants like kicking down the door to try to get in there. Small Fry Aquatics drives me nuts watching the house buying shows. Young couple, she doesn't work, and he's a stay-at-home truck driver, and they have a budget of $3.4 million. How do people manage this stuff? I wholeheartedly agree with you. I have watched those shows, and with Vicky, like we watched some of those. Like there was one that they would go to Alaska all the time. And you guys know that we have family and stuff up in Alaska, so it's kind of cool to be like, oh, dude, I know that area. That's crazy. But it's like these people are like, it makes no sense to me where they're like, we have to stick within our strict budget of $1.7 million. If we go over that, we're going to have some issues. I mean, she's going to be mad if we go over that. And you're basically just like, this makes no sense. I don't know. But obviously those people exist. It's very strange. Some people's crochet businesses are just extremely successful, which, who knows? I think the best is to think very hard about how to move on to your next step. I don't think we're going back to how things were. Yes, Dan, I think that's going to be the best. I think for the average people, I have a small business, but I don't have any overhead, realistically. My overhead is my house and the electricity and water and like the internet's crazy and all this blah, blah, blah stuff. Like, I have pretty basic overhead that's not anything nuts. I really wanted to do the makerspace. I don't know what the makerspace is ever going to look like, or I don't know what I'm going to do at this point as far as the makerspace goes, because, obviously I don't know the future. I do have a crystal ball. Hold on. Let me grab it. Yes. It's not real crystal. It's just a ball of glass. Go easy, guys. But we shall see what the future holds. With the likelihood of the makerspace, I'm honestly thinking that I'm probably going to have to, just kind of scrap that idea. It never got funded anyhow. We never got to the point where there was, enough people really backing it to try and do stuff. And I often hear from people, they're like, yeah, do a GoFundMe or do this or do that. And I'm like, I have a Patreon. I have memberships. If people want to support it, they can. It's easy. If I'm not like starting up new like fundraising projects, I just, to be honest with you, I don't have time to run a GoFundMe or figure out what the hell's going on with any of that. So, yeah. And so I think that the makerspace is likely, probably, I don't know. I mean, maybe a cure comes out. Maybe they get a vaccine and a cure or something. I don't know. And then it is back on. But right now, it's whatever it is. And I realistically think Dan has a really good point there of like we should just probably all be kind of looking at like what's our next step, what's the best direction that we could be working to go in. I know that personally we have discussed and thought about selling the house here, and it seemed like this year might, if we were going to sell, it seemed like this year would have been pretty good. It's kind of a coin flip situation, but now I don't know who's buying a house at this point, you know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think most people just kind of focusing on the next indicated step that you should probably be working on. I think that's what advice that I could give everybody. Fishy Fun says, if I was younger and healthier, I'd move on our abandoned homestead. It's on a lake in the middle of nowhere. It only has a landline. I was going to say landmine. If it's got a landmine, it's gold, brother. Yeah, I mean, if you have a homestead, that's what I would do. I would definitely move out there and develop it. Danikin Aquatics with a $5 super chat says, thanks for helping us to get to 1K last week. Hey, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to help you guys out. I love whenever I can support more fish content out there in the world. I think it's good. And, if you guys haven't seen Danikin Aquatics, I think they have like 80-something aquariums. So if you guys are looking for more fish tank content, check it out. Jake D says, become a member. When Joel gets to 100, he wins life. And Corey promised to do a stream with Joel, like Real Fish Talk. I don't know. I don't know if Corey ever made the promise to come on if we had 100 members. But I don't know. I could always just message him and ask him. I don't remember if he ever did. I don't know. I know that he was planning to come down here and do a show at some point, but man, it's been busy, and now with the virus stuff, like it's 10 times as busy. There's just no end to work in sight, realistically. So, Barbara says, we sold my mother's house after she passed in early 2008. I later felt kind of bad for whoever bought it, but who knew? Well, if anybody bought the house in 2008 and stayed in it, that value came back, I'm sure that the market came back up and did fine. Now, if they had like a really shady home loan, then they probably had a problem. But, there's a reason that there's a 30-year mortgage. It's like it's not a short-term investment, just buying houses and stuff. Now, I know that TV shows would give you would give the world the impression that like you just buy a house, remodel it in 20 minutes, and then sell it and make $200,000 or something. I know that TV would give you that impression, but it's not a good impression to have. It's a good impression to remember that like buying a house and owning a house is a long-term investment. And if somebody had bought it in 2008, that's only 12 years ago. They would be in the, still the beginning third of their mortgage. So hopefully the value came back and maybe they wanted to move, or maybe they just are going to stay and hopefully it worked out. I don't know. What do we got? What do we got in the chat here? Let's see. It is, however, a 57 with a body like a broken chuck wagon. I need a couple of people to move out there with me. We have a cabin with a wood and coal stove. I would be honest. I'll be honest with you, and I would say that like if I had a homestead property on a lake, what my project would be, would be to build some tiny homes on it and hopefully do something like an Airbnb with them. It may not work perfectly, but you might be able to, rent out those properties. You could stay out there a couple weeks a year to be the caretaker during the summertime or something like that, and kind of start utilizing that property in that fashion, if that's something that you can do. But I don't know. If I was going to do it, that's what I would do it. I would try to make it into a property that essentially pays for itself. That's what I would be doing if I had a homestead like that. Now, obviously, that does take time and energy and things like that. And if it's not something you can do, then I would maybe not invest in that. Who knows? But that's what I would do. Obviously, depending on the agricultural things that you could be doing with a property like that, there is some agriculture that you could be doing. If you were going to start out trying to do something, I would highly recommend looking up Joel Salatin. Let me write his name in here. You can a quick YouTube search of his name there. You can definitely check some videos and stuff like that on how to kind of start out your own little farm. That's what his focus is on. His focus is on helping people start with kind of nothing and start farming and have a sustainable farm. He's a chicken farmer that really helps out explain the process of getting a chicken farm started, because it's a real low-cost startup. It's something that pretty much anybody can do. And I can tell you from my own experience, chickens are pretty easy to deal with. They're not that difficult, and it's something that you could do. Small Fry says, I apologize if I've asked you this before. Do you know or have a source of sauce wassertang? I realistically, you'd want to find a hobbyist that's selling it. You know what I mean? I would find a hobbyist. So I would go onto Facebook. There are some pretty large groups on Facebook of people that are growing aquatic plants and stuff like that. I would go become a member of some of those, and then post a want up there like, hey, I'm looking for some Swassertang, I'll pay. Who has it? Or whatever. Joel G says, kind of weird, YouTube removed the see this person's channel option for me. Yeah, that is weird. I do have to admit, when you search stuff now on YouTube, you don't get like the channel or the see this person's channel option. Like, it's just kind of bizarre. Like, I don't know why YouTube decided to get rid of that, but it is weird. But I'm just a guy that's on YouTube. I have no idea what the inner workings of YouTube are, and every time they seem to make a decision, it's definitely 50-50 where I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty good, that makes sense, and then the other is just like, what are you doing? And yeah, so I don't know. But giant corporations with a lot of people working on their computer, it's bound to be a mixed bag like that for sure. You know what I mean? So that's reality. It's been done to stop the S before SB streams. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of those streams are. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That is weird. All right. I don't know why they did that, but seems like Sharpies and Joel knows, and I bet Mr. Gillette himself will message me what that's all about. Yeah, so Swassertang is a weird seasonal plant, so I would say the best thing is to figure out when wholesalers have it, and then get a lot, and then grow it yourself. That's what I would do. Yeah, I mean, it grows like crazy once you get it established in a tank. So, I mean, I figured if you had some, I'd just set up some tanks for it and just start growing it. It's always kind of the best bet. Punchy Paint says the meat market streams. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Got it. Okay, I got it now. Excuse me. Let's see. My 20-year-old son thinks, like you, it's 160 acres halfway back to brush and 5 acres in the lake. Thanks for recommending channel. Yeah, well, Joel Salatin is just a guy. I think he has a channel, and he has people come like make videos with him, but he has books. He has a school that, well, I mean, obviously with this virus stuff, so maybe not right now, but you can actually go to his farm and volunteer there and learn from him in person. There's a whole bunch of options with that guy. He's a former Marine from Vietnam War and stuff like that, so he's just a real motivated, down-to-earth, blue-collar dude, which is right up my alley, but he also reads books like I do, so I have a lot of parallels with that dude. And I'm kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. I'd hang out with that guy. Actually, I learned who Joel Salatin was from the Joe Rogan Experience a few years ago, like maybe 5-6 years ago, something like that. He was on there, and that's really like when Joe Rogan had like interesting guests on his show. So nowadays, he all just has these right-wing weirdos that like just make stuff up on his show, which is bizarre. Terry's Tropical Tanks coming in, joining up and being a member. So, oh my God, we're getting closer, guys. We're getting closer to 90. We're getting closer to 100. Woo! Look at that. Thank you, Terry Tropical Tanks, and thank you to all the other 89 members on the channel. Very much appreciate it. Like I said, it was our goal to get to 100, and we never did. And I've never even experienced what it's like to have 100 members on the channel. We've never experienced it. We just, yeah, who knows? And Terry says, "Woohoo! Unemployment kicked in." Yeah, I know it's been rough out there. It's been rough out there for a lot of people, man. And I appreciate it, you know. And I know a lot of people have had to drop out support and stuff like that because they're like, "Dude, I just don't have any money coming in, man. It's crazy." And it's like I understand 100%. Like my income has dropped about 40%, so it's totally like a belt tightening move out here, but that's just how it's got to be right now. So I'm just living with it and trying to do the best I can with everything that's going on. Let's see. There's a YouTube community forum. Many people were complaining there. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Punchy Paints. Here we go. Joel Salatin. I hope I spelled it right. I think I might have spelled that wrong. I don't know. You can find him. Oh my God, we got another new member. Tiffany White. Coming in. We're right back to where we were before. We're right back to 91. We're right back to 91, coming in strong. Coming in strong with the strength. The strength. Natural Aquariums, just listen to JRE with Chris D'Elia. Yeah, I mean, Chris D'Elia, that was funny. You know, Chris D'Elia coming on, that was hilarious, and Chris D'Elia is a hilarious guy, so that works out well. I'm not saying he has no interesting guests on there, but it's definitely been a little bit rough on the Joe Rogan Experience, where it's just like, I mean, he had Dan Crenshaw on there the other day, and it's just like a mind-bendingly bad interview where you got a guy who's in our government, involved in our government, and is just making stuff up off the cuff, and even to the point where, you know, Joe Rogan, like because they're like via Skype, even Joe Rogan via Skype was literally just like, what are you talking about? Like, what about this? What about that? You know, it's like the whole, if we, you know, like if we start up a healthcare system that is a universal healthcare system, he's like, there's no doctors would go to work anymore. Like no one would be a doctor anymore if you don't make a lot of money, which is weird because there's countries all around the world that have doctors in them in a universal healthcare system. They're all around the world, right? You know, and they're all working. They're showing up to work. They're making good money in a lot of countries and stuff. You know, it's like you could easily take Canada. You could even take, let's see a weird, let's take Singapore. Let's take Singapore, for example. You know, they have universal health care, and they have doctors that show up to work. They have nurses that show up to work. They also have janitors that show up to work. You know, I was listening to Bo of the Fifth Column, who does kind of like a political thing. You know, he's like a former, I think he was a Marine, or maybe he was in the Army. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's a former military guy. I listened to him quite a bit. But he brought up a really good point about the universal basic income situation. And it's more to do with like what it's like to be a human, right? Because like the math implementation of like Andrew Yang's universal basic income, he's the guy who kind of brought that back into the American lexicon and idea of, you know, a political idea, which has been around for a long time, by the way, if people were wondering. It's not a new concept. It's just Andrew Yang brought it back to the conversation because he was running for president. And the idea is that like, if you have universal basic income, you would just stop doing stuff altogether. Like that's the argument against it, right? Like, why wouldn't people be motivated? And Bo was actually talking about it like, well, nobody would ever work at McDonald's anymore. And the parallel there is like McDonald's is just, working at McDonald's is just a job, but it has, you know, a societal implication behind it that this is just a poor person working a crappy job. Oh, that's like for teenagers or something. You know, and the reality is like nobody goes down to the nice restaurant, and I'm not going to say nobody because some people do, but you don't like go down to the restaurant and see the chef working back there making burgers for people and be like, oh, well, that guy sucks. He wouldn't be doing this job. And it's the same job, realistically. It's equally as difficult, you know, working a fancy 5-star Michelin restaurant versus working at McDonald's. They're both crazy difficult jobs, physically, mentally. By the end of the day, you're wiped out. You're coated in food, disgusting. You know, it's a mess. But the idea would be that, like, oh, if people had universal basic income, nobody would ever work at McDonald's anymore or whatever. But the reality is, like, we're all at home right now. And the idea that we're all thinking about is, do we have enough food? Do I have shelter? Do I have heat? Do I have the rent or mortgage paid? Do I have the electric bill paid? Do I have that stuff paid? Because that's the thing that's going to sustain me moving forward. And yes, some people may or may not be watching some Netflix or something. But you'll notice that, like, people are sewing masks. People are doing all sorts of projects around the house. They're doing all sorts of things to better themselves and better their community, right? And that motivation doesn't come from, I just strictly have to make money. It's that humans are motivated to do stuff and improve the world around them. Like, that's just ingrained in whatever it is that we are, right? Just the human form is that we're just going to continue to improve our surroundings and make them better. So while I don't think that universal basic income is a great idea, I do think universal health care is a good idea, because even if we go with the American ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you don't have health care, you can't pursue life, you can't pursue liberty, and you can't pursue happiness. You can't accomplish those tasks if you're sick and dying and no one is taking care of you. We do need more doctors. We do need more nurses. We need more healthcare professionals. And if there's this impedance in front of them, this impending wall of crippling debt for the rest of your life, how many people are really going to pursue that moving forward? And I think we can look historically at what's going on in the United States, that there aren't more and more and more doctors and trained people. There's less and less of them coming up. And I would like the betterment of our society to be open to everybody moving forward. That's just kind of my whole thing, and there's a lot of folks out there that scream and yell in my face, or they scream and yell at me on the internet, and they get all mad and they want to call me names and they want to do all this and that and the other thing. And okay, that's cool. But I like to kind of just go via my life by some of the evidence that's going on and things that are happening. And I just am unfortunately discouraged by the fact that everything is just monetarily based in the United States. And it does make me kind of depressed. And I would like to just be able to, that everybody just keep moving forward and doing better and better and better. That's my mantra in life, is just try to do better than what I was doing before. So I don't know. Hopefully that passes on to somebody. Maybe I'm just weird and got on this weird tangent, but I don't know. It's not really deeply thought out. It's just something I was popped into my head to talk about for a minute. And, hey, if we can just kind of remember that this is kind of just a fun show, we have a good time and try to kind of just talk about whatever's going on. Small Fire Aquatics says, I'm fairly old, but I can remember when a family could live a nice life with minimum wage jobs. Not luxury, but a pleasant life. We slowly allowed ourselves to be priced out of a basic life. And that's one of the weird things historically in the United States. The minimum wage and, the productivity based off of minimum wage and things like that. Technology came along, increased productivity, and the wage hasn't gone with it. The wages haven't gone with it. The wages have gone back to other parties, let's just say. And that's the real evidence if you look at it. If you actually look at it over time, productivity's gone way up. Wages have stagnated. And we haven't been expanding things that I believe that we should expand, like healthcare and things like that. I often hear like those talking points of like, well, these people wouldn't go to work anymore. And it's like, well, who are those people? Who are those people that would just stop going to work? Like, because as far as I know, the people that would just stop going to work are the people that don't go to work now. Those are the people that already don't go to work. But yeah. Let's see. Michael Allen says, I don't know about that. I think socializing healthcare won't get better medicine. Example, pre-World War II Germany, but more government oversight on how they operate and charge people would help. Yeah, now see, I agree with that. Pre-World War II Germany is a completely crazy situation that is kind of insulated in the fact that they already had World War I, right? We never had World War I here. Yes, we've always gone overseas, and people have, the United States has never been invaded, and oftentimes people tell me it's because our military is so strong, and it's like, no, it's because the Pacific Ocean is huge and the Atlantic Ocean is huge. It's a monumental task to get here from other, what are you going to land a whole bunch of people in what, Texas, Maine, Washington? Where are you going to land all your forces? You can't just get them here without being detected. I don't know how you would get them here without being detected, but that's the reason we've never been invaded. We didn't have any wars and stuff like that. Now, socializing healthcare, we already have that, but we're socializing it on the back end, right? So it's illegal in the United States for an emergency department to refuse care to somebody that needs it. Now, if you come in there with a hangnail, that's not life-threatening. It's not life-threatening or anything like that. They could just be like, hey, you need to go to a clinic or something. You're not life-threatening. But you have to give care to people that are in a life-threatening situation, and then we end up, as the taxpayers, end up paying for it on the back end, right? Instead of going, and the basic idea would be, instead of washing your car and maintaining your car, you drive it like a maniac, blow up the motor, and don't ever take care of it, and then you got to rebuild the whole thing once it's broken, right? Versus going in, getting its oil changes and stuff like that, and just taking care of it, and it being a 30-year-old car that still runs fine. So you're paying for that catastrophic failure at the end versus just the standard issue. And, the taxpayers go into paying because you can't turn people away, right? So the idea would be to get ahead of the game, to pay for that stuff ahead of time, to develop those systems so that we can just keep moving forward, right? Moonstone says the Civil War, yeah, but that's also a different century. So, Civil War is quite a while before the World War One. The Spanish-American War, I don't know too much off the top of my head on the Spanish-American War, but I think that was a pretty basic conflict. Let's see. Spanish-American War. I don't know too much about the Spanish-American War. Spanish-American War was an armed conflict between Spain and the United States in 1898. So, yeah, different century even. Hostilities began in the aftermath of the international explosion. Oh, that's right, the USS Maine in Havana, in Cuba, leading U.S. to U.S. intervention in the Cuban War of Independence. Right. Yeah. Spanish-American War between the United States and Spain effectively. Yeah, I don't know that much. I mean, it would take me a little bit to get refreshed on the Spanish-American War, but just to. Let's see. So, War One. I want to check the dates on World War One because I don't remember exactly. See, World War One began in 1914 and lasted until 1918. So it was basically 20 years after. I mean, obviously, it's less than 20 years, but it's a big gap at the time. And obviously, it was in Europe. It wasn't in Cuba, right? So. A much different situation, and then so you go from World War I into World War II. There's another 35-year gap there. So people that were 0 ended up being basically my age, right? So, it's a lot to take into consideration. But that was one of the reasons for Obamacare. Obviously, the Affordable Care Act is a controversial thing for anybody to talk about, but the biggest portion of the Affordable Care Act and why it was important to get pricing down was instead of, for instance, a prescription company, right? They're like, oh, we produce this drug, we produce it overseas, and now we charge $1,200 a month for this drug, right? If they were doing that under the Affordable Care Act, you were actually doing that to the American citizens as a whole instead of the American citizen as an individual, right? Because as an individual, they go, well, the individual has a choice whether to pay or not. And it's their individual's responsibility whether they have whatever to pay or they don't have whatever to pay. Now, under the Affordable Care Act, they would be doing that to the whole of American citizens. So you could actually prosecute the company for, charging $1,200 a month for insulin, for instance, which now all of a sudden they are like, we only have to charge $35 a month. Right. So it is kind of like it's a real dicey situation, but I think realistically what I was trying to convey was we should really be thinking about what it is that we want moving forward, just as and the reason I say that this is just it's a world topic is because this whole virus is screwing with the whole world. It's a world topic of how are we going to take a step forward as to what's our plan? What are we doing? Where are we going? Because I know a lot of people's businesses are kind of hemorrhaging right now and things are pretty crazy, and hopefully they can get back to normal at some point. But well, Small Fry has a good point. Well, if we're going to talk domestic warfare, how about the Battle of Bowling Green, Ohio? Yeah, that's some of those alternative facts where representatives of the White House just get on TV and make up stuff, like the Battle of Bowling Green. Yep. Which is weird, and they don't even get fired for it. They get promoted. Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, Sharpies has a good point. It's hard enough to stage an invasion across 30 miles of the English Channel. Yep. Which I think there's a bridge across the English Channel now, isn't there? Or a tunnel. I really do want to go through... Or is that through the English Channel? I think it is. It goes from France to... It goes from France to England, right? But I don't know if that's 30 miles. Is that 30 miles? I don't know. I'd have to specifically look into it, but I would love to go through the, what do they call it? The channel? Something like that. I want to go from Europe to England and then back. I definitely do. I mean, I want to go to the UK sometime. I was really planning on it for maybe like 2021, but now I don't know. Now I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of misspoke on the bridge thing. I was trying to say tunnel, and then bridge started coming out, and I was like... But yes, it's the channel, right? Yeah, I think it's the channel. Now, I was thinking about going to the UK in like 2021 or something like that, but now all the travel plans are canceled. I was supposed to be in Germany in 4 weeks for Interzoo, which is the biggest convention that it's like it's a pet convention. It's pet and fish tanks, so it's all of the fish companies are there. It's big time, and it's a huge convention. We were supposed to be there in like 4 weeks. Sorry. But that whole thing got canceled. We're supposed to go to Florida this year, but that is canceled. It seems pretty clear that I don't know if I'm going to be going to Florida ever. I mean, I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but it is just pure like self-inflicted disaster down there in Florida right now, and I don't know. I guess it was more of a nervous laughter. I'm very sorry, like all the pain and suffering that's going on down in Florida, but I just don't know what the people in charge down there are thinking, even remotely. I don't know, but I don't know if we're ever going to Florida because of that. And then there was another trip. And maybe we'll be able to go to the Netherlands this year if Vivarium is going again. But I don't know, and I think the last thing I would do is plan for that because I don't know if the flights will even be going by then. So I definitely don't want to book anything before I kind of know if anything's going on or not. I mean, even the Olympics were canceled, for crying out loud. So that's a real deal. People of Heathrow and Hounslow must be getting some great sleep right now. Yeah, probably. Ligada, Spanish-American War is basically Americans taking spoils from already dying and bankrupt empire, not something that would stress the USA like World War I or II. Yeah, like I said, I'm not an expert on the Spanish-American War, and that's probably one of the reasons, because it was a fairly innocuous, and not innocuous for the victims of it or the people, but to the United States history, it's not a big anything. It's not a big lump, a whomp, or anything. I don't know. Let's see. I visited Interzoo Nuremberg many years ago. It is huge. Yeah, it is. That's right, Mickey M. It is. It's huge, and it's gigantic convention. And I had gone 2 years ago, and I was really hoping to be there this year. I had all these kind of like, what am I gonna film? What am I gonna do? Because last time I was there, I was really. I mean, you get really kind of. It's not necessarily starstruck, but there's just so much going on. that you don't really know what it is you're supposed to film, or what's the story, or like what's awesome that I gotta film, what's not, because you could literally just walk around lost all day at Interzoo and not make it back to where you started. It's huge. It is really big. I think it was like 13 buildings, 13 of these huge like exhibition buildings. It's monumental. I think like 30,000 people a day go in and out or something like that. Like, it's just wild how many people are there, like how much stuff is there, everything that's going on. It's just, it's wild. But I had a good idea of what I was going to do this year at Interzoo, like who I wanted to interview, what stands I needed to go to, what companies I needed to talk to. I mean, honestly, I was going to try to get some sponsorship going this year for myself. But you know, I don't know if anybody needs to be sponsoring anybody at this point in time. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Fishy Fun 57 says, hey, Nova Scotia had a mass shooting of over 19. What? Is that like new? Nova Scotia. Oh my God, it must be new. Oh my God, that is new. Oh no. Gunman kills 18 in Nova Scotia in Canada's deadliest shooting. That is, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, it happened in Canada. I don't know what to say when it happens in my own country. That is awful, man. It's just like pure awful. There isn't nothing redeemable about that, and that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that, and I guess thanks for bringing it up, because I will try to look into seeing what the hell happened. You know, what the hell happened with that. That is awful. Yeah, I'm really I mean, it doesn't matter that I'm American and we hear about it all the time in America, and we experience stuff like that a lot. I mean, my last house in West Seattle, people got shot out front of that house, and that's traumatic as it gets. And then people in the apartments behind us, two people were shot and killed one night. Vicky and I woke up, and that was like, there's like an alley behind, so it was like the backyard, a fence, an alley that was just a little dirt road, and then it was right there. You know, stuff like that. There's just no... Yeah, there's just nothing to do. Let's see. Mickey M says, a local fish club here had to cancel a trip to Aquarium Glacier planned for September, which I will tell you, go to Aquarium Glacier, that's for sure, if you can. Hopefully, I mean, that sucks it got canceled in September. I mean, maybe fingers crossed. That's 5 months from now. Maybe that works out. I mean, I had a great time there. That place is awesome. It's really cool. I have a video on it somewhere on my channel. I don't know. There's too many videos on here now. It's hard to find anything. But maybe if you search it up on the channel. But yeah, definitely worthwhile to go. There's a lot of dog and cat stuff in Nuremberg too, not purely aquatics. Yes, there's a lot of dog, a lot of cat, a little bit of bird stuff, but a ton of aquatic stuff. So, I mean, there's literally so much. Like, let's say you were to go to like a big fish, like air quote fish convention here in the United States. You can walk around all of the fish conventions here in the United States. You could walk around most of them in a couple of hours, and you've seen everything. Interzoo, nope, not even remotely. I mean, we were there for 4 days, and I don't think we saw everything. And that was like walking around, talking to people, like, so pretty wild. Let's see. Can't imagine I was surprised to find myself at Heathrow, only to find out I was miles from London. In fact, I was walking anywhere. What is this? But small fry, more expensive for you, but you get dropped off in the middle of Paris, so you save the taxi ride from the airport. What are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking about? I'm trying to figure out what y'all talking about. I don't know. Something to do with travel that sounds interesting. Didn't you guys have old wars where people would go down and have a picnic and watch? That I don't know what you're referencing to, but probably. Victor Flores says plants are awesome. Yeah, we're an hour and a half in, so maybe, I don't know, get here at the start next time. We've kind of wound down from the plant conversation. I mean, not to be critical, but if people do that a lot, they'll show up in the live stream, like, and it's been running, like I've been on here talking for an hour and a half, and they're like, why aren't you talking about the exact thing I was interested in at the moment that I clicked on this video? You're like, I don't know, dude. Like, it's been an hour and a half, so chances are I'm probably not going to be talking about the exact thing, but you could always ask a question, and I'll do my best to try and answer it. Let's see here. Yeah, I was at the Pushed Beale Street Music Festival from May to October. Oh, yeah, Beale Street. The Beale Street Music Festival from May to October. I would guess that the weather's probably a little bit better in October, maybe. I mean, if you get lucky, you can get real bad weather in May, that's for sure. So maybe that's the upside. I don't know. I would, I don't know. I'd love to go to to Beale Street like 25 years ago. If there was a time machine, that would be rad. Yeah. Let's see. Fishy Fun says, the province needs prayers. The strangest thing, 16 crime scenes scattered over 55 miles. This doesn't happen here. Last time was 1989. It's just people need to be so careful now. Yeah, that's awful, man. Like I said, I haven't really heard anything about it, but that just sounds awful. One of the weird things about these shootings, and I don't know, it's probably like an undeveloped theory, but it's a theory that sort of makes sense, is that a lot of people in the people that research like serial killers and that kind of stuff, is that they're finding out that like the people that likely would have been a serial killer like 40 years ago are turning into spree killers now because of technology. Like they know they're going to get caught somewhere in their weird brain, right? In their weird, like, demented brain, they know that they're going to get caught. And that's one of the reasons that we do live in the safest time, is that technology. Technology has kind of pumped the brakes on a lot of the really scary crime that I think most people would be fearful of, and that would be things like a serial killer. Like, they just don't exist that much anymore. And I said like 500 times, so my apologies. But and I think that's an interesting theory, that I think we don't see those like serial killers and stuff like that anymore because of spree killing is kind of the thing. And I don't know, it's depressing and sad, but definitely interesting. Adrian Rodriguez says, I saw an article that many people that have recovered from COVID-19 are testing positive again. They aren't sure if it's reinfection or just residual. Yeah, they're unsure, and that's been happening. It could have something to do with the inaccuracy of the testing. It could be that the virus is flaring back up. It could be that you initially, there's a lot of vectors, right? Vector, that could be playing into that. So I would just keep with the best scientific reporting that you can find out to kind of keep seeing what's going on. I do know that some people were worried that there could be different strains of it now as it's slowly mutated. I don't know. That's kind of scary if there's going to be a whole bunch of strains of this virus, which kind of freak everybody out and freak me out too. I'd include myself in that. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully that it's not flaring back up. It's something that I was talking about on Facebook just a little while ago is that like one of the big reasons that we need to be cognizant about this virus is that we don't know the lasting effects of people having it and getting better from it. And one of the real easy examples that I would give to people would be that like you get chicken pox, you get better from chicken pox, then 30 years later, you get the shingles, my guy. And I don't know if y'all have had the shingles. I haven't personally had the shingles, but I know people close to me that have had the shingles, and you start to realize like, oh, maybe it was a bad idea to expose everyone to chicken pox on purpose, because later in life you're going to have these consistent flare-ups of shingles over and over and over again, which is like this insanely painful, gross skin breakout situation. It's just seems terrible, right? And it's from the chickenpox virus flaring back up when you're older. Like you figure, oh, I'm good. I don't have to worry about them chickenpox. But, oh, we just call it shingles now. We don't call it like chickenpox 2 electric boogaloo, which I think we should. That would be way more entertaining than shingles. Yeah. So that's one of those things that like I think a lot of young people are under the impression that like, oh, if I get it, it'll be fine. And you're like, well, yeah, I mean, you'd likely survive, but we don't know what the effects are over time of having had this virus, Are your lungs all screwed up forever or whatever? Like we don't know. We don't know. So you don't want it, Yeah, Leslie's Aquatic says, haha, that was our parents that did that to us, sent us to school so we would go ahead and get the chicken pox. Yeah, I know a lot of people's parents would do that. Like, they found, like, years ago, if somebody had, one of the kids had chicken pox, they're like, take all the kids over there to play with the kid with chicken pox so they'll all get it and get it out of their system. And you're like, well, that's a dumb idea, right? But that was the idea at the time. Oh my God, $20 super chat from Moonstone. Holy crap. It's bright orange, guy. It says, money changes everything from this hashtag Cyndi Lauper, which I can never get the the melody of Money Changes Everything, the Cyndi Lauper song, in my head until I hear it, and then I'm like, oh yeah. And I can't play it because I'll just get copyright strike. So, and people wondering where I get my music from on the videos. I've had a lot of people ask about that. You can actually go to Artlist and get music there. That's where I get my music from. And yes, it costs a lot of money to pay for the licensing. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. That's why people are like, I tried to look up the song that was playing on that, and I couldn't find it. And you're like, well, that's because it's on Artlist. It's licensed to Artlist. So, Michael Allen says the time when anti-vaxxers are people are reconsidering their life choices. Yeah, I mean, it's a reality that people can get damaged from vaccines. And by the way, when you go to get vaccines or when your kids go to vaccines, they give you a ton of paperwork. They let you know that there is a possibility that you could be injured from this, as more often than not, it's an allergic reaction or an autonomic reaction to whatever is in the vaccine. There's a whole bunch of warnings, man. And then, like, somebody's kid has an allergic reaction, and all of a sudden, medicine's out the window, everything's out the window for the rest of this person's life because the vaccines are toxic and they're going to kill everybody and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I don't know, man. It's just, that's not what's going on. And, if it was the case, let's change it. But there's just no evidence of it being the case other than people just kind of saying stuff. And you're like, I don't know, man. It's weird. Robin Guppy Art says, question, how many air pumps can I hook up to a tank? 29 gallon. I have a treasure chest that needs air to work. I also bought a dragon who blows air bubbles and 2 air filters. Is that too much? There's a possibility that you just might have like too much chaos going on in the water. But that pretty much just comes down to like fish selection more than anything. But, that is, I would say fish selection that more has to do with flow than just the air bubbles that are going on in the water, but it might just be too chaotic in there for some fish. So, that would be the reality, but I think if there was like too much air going into the tank, I think it would literally be just a human observation. All right. Human observation, realistically is going to be the way to go. Barbara Jackson says there can be side effects for the polio. Yes. And I recently was looking into that to the vaccine-related polio, which you can get you can get polio from the vaccine. And in 2018 or 2019, I might be wrong about the year, out of all of the people that got the polio vaccine, hundreds of millions of people, there were 98 that got it. Your chances of winning the lottery are higher than getting the vaccine-related polio from the vaccine. Getting polio from the vaccine, yes. So, I mean, you could weigh your options, and if you feel like you'd like to go one direction or the other, then go for that. But I think just on the basis that statistically speaking, it is possible. But 98, we almost have that many members on our YouTube channel here about fish and shrimp and plants and stuff, right? So it's not a huge percentage of the world. We are a unique small group of people here, world-wise. I got into anti-vaccine rallies to sign people up for my Flat Earth group. Yeah. Don't fall for the Flat Earth stuff either. It's ridiculous. Somebody had a question. Fishy Fun said there are 2 strains of COVID, S and L. Yes, S is the first one. The initial sort of weak, not very contagious one, and then L is the one that mutated that's really contagious and spreading around. So I know that there were some cases in Japan and Korea that people got reinfected, or they believe that they had the first one and then they got the second one, but those were like healthcare workers right near the initial outbreak. So I think that's what they were considering, that whole situation, from what I read, was just those healthcare workers really close to where the initial outbreak was, and they ended up just catching both of it. Let's see. Oh, Barbara said, I meant without vaccine, there would be polio. Yeah, I mean, yeah, without the vaccine, there would 100% be. polio, and it is a god-awful disease that you do not want that coming back. You just do not want polio coming back. The other one is a marine biology. When the USMC finally lets him go home, he will be working on it. Go kids. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I've had to have the hepatitis inoculations, the tuberculosis ones, the polio. Yeah, I mean, I've had a bunch. I've had to have a bunch of them because of work and stuff like that. I had to get a bunch of weird ones that I don't remember off the top of my head for having worked as a street sweeper. I did street sweeping for a long time because you could work it at night. By the way, if you're doing some street sweeping, you're going to be working some graveyard shifts. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be up at 4 o'clock you're going to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to be like 4 in the afternoon for you. I do recommend like the street sweeping profession. You can make some good money doing that. Yeah, you can make some good money doing that. Chevy Fish said, did the disease start in Japan or China? It started outside of Wuhan, China, is what is being reported. But I guess if you listen to what's his name, Ted Cruz, he believes that it's was created in a lab, and apparently senators are going on to internet shows and saying stuff like that now, which is bizarre. Vaccines weren't designed to treat people, but more to protect people who can't get the vaccines. It's a double whammy of awesomeness, realistically. Vaccines were designed to treat everybody, and then they figured out that like not everybody can get the vaccine, but they did find out that once everybody got vaccinated, it protected the people that couldn't get vaccinated. Yeah. So, yes, a lot of this stuff has to be done with caution, but yeah, that's why you go to a hospital to get this stuff administered by somebody who is paying attention to what's going on and is trained in it and knows what's happening. We even have to, I don't think we actually have to take her in. I think we're going to do an online Skype checkup for Olivia with her doctor. And if he sees anything going on, we'll take her in person because she doesn't. I think she's I don't know how many months, whatever months checkup thing that she's got going on. She's going to get checked up, and we're just going to do it online to avoid extra exposure because she's not sick or anything like that, and she doesn't have anything that she needs to go in for specifically for at least a couple more months or something like that. So, but we have a checkup in a couple days, and then we have another one in a month. So, I mean, that's why we have doctor guys, or gals, doctor humans. There we go. Fishy Fun says there was a level 4 lab in Wuhan, China. It will be decades before we know the truth. Yes, there's been labs in Wuhan, China. Yeah, there's labs in every state of the United States. There's labs in all sorts of countries. There's labs all over the place. So, on the basis that like those labs are there, like, I don't hear anybody talking about the conspiracies of whether or not it's coming from Germany or Argentina or Japan or wherever, you know what I mean? Like, it's always just everything's all here directed at China or whatnot, but which is pretty crazy to me, and there's a lot of people in China, there's over 4 times the population in China as compared to the United States, the same amount of land as the contiguous U.S. So just all my American friends just think for every one person you see, there's actually 4. It's a lot of people, a lot of food going in and out, a lot of, developing into areas where people have never been before, and that's a lot what's going on. Barbara Jackson says there's evidence of the virus evolving its own immune defense against the victim's immune system. A lab-produced virus cannot do that. See, I wouldn't say that a lab-produced virus cannot do that. They're just not able to do that currently. So, I mean, one hand in the other kind of situation, but I think that's the reality of it, is that virologists say, like, no, this is a natural, from their experience, they're saying this is a natural virus that's going on. I took my youngest in last week for his 16th month vaccinations. The person had to wear full COVID PPE. Yeah, which they should. And that's great. That's a great sign to see that wherever you're having to take your kid in, or anybody going in, they were actually seeing the preventative measures going into place. It's good. It's good to see that. It's a little shocking, but it's good. Let's see. Gillett says he thought Russia was on top of it, but he stopped paying attention. So, yeah, I mean, Gillett has a pretty unique situation compared to most of us. You're down in New Zealand, where most things are pretty sensible. I wouldn't say they're wildly sensible, but you do live on a tiny island out in the middle of nowhere, so, and most everybody out in New Zealand's pretty with it, I would say. They're pretty aware of what's going on in the world, or their own world, or their neighbor's world. I don't know what y'all doing down there, but you're on a little island and you're in a good situation. Dan Squire says, technically started in Malaysia in a creature called a pangolin, similar to an anteater. The Chinese use them for their medicine. They're on the endangered list. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really knows 100%, but yes, the pangolin is involved with with that. But I would say that in the United States, let's stay cognizant of the virus, the COVID virus that is going on. Yes. But something that's relatable in the United States is the deer wasting disease. So I would recommend most people in the U.S. to start looking that up. That wasting disease is spreading. It's prevalent. It's happening. And that's something that we should be watching as Americans. So to my American friends out there, we need to start keeping an eye on deer wasting disease. That is very important. That is one that is happening here, like mad cow. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on that we should be cognizant of. And remember, yeah, we should be on the COVID thing, but we should definitely be on top of a lot of this stuff, because we should have time to at least kind of know what's happening. Michael Allen says, I'm surprised you're not hearing of cases coming out of Russia. I'm not surprised. I would doubt that I would not doubt that they're just covering it up, Leslie's Aquatic says deer. Yes, deer, the wasting disease is spreading pretty rapidly. And from what I read, a lot of what's happening is that, like, hunters are hunting these deer, loading them into their vehicle, and taking them and spreading it around. And not getting it tested and stuff like that. So it was very important to start checking on that if you're an American and you are kind of worried about virus stuff that's going on. That is one that's in the U.S. that's very important. Natural Aquarium says, stay home, stay away from pangolin labs and bats. It's a good point. If you run into bats, stay the F away from them. Don't touch them. Don't pick them up. Don't mess around with their nest. Any of that stuff, call somebody for sure. Barbara Jackson says, I've read a lot of articles, scientists who do virology all the time, and has so many things that only show up in a wild virus and not in lab-produced viruses. The exotic wet markets, is it? Well, I mean, exotic markets is, I mean, it's one aspect of it, but it's also like people just encroaching more and more into areas that we've never been exposed to, so you have to, I think we as people have to kind of take that into consideration, that like the areas that are getting clear cut, burned, all that kind of stuff. Like there was a big story in the Amazon that like the Amazon was burning. Well, it was being burned, like it was being slashed and burned so that they can farm more beef because more people want to eat meat. They want that protein-rich food, as people move into second world and first world countries. They want to eat protein-rich food. They want to have more meat and stuff. So we have to farm more meat, and it's a big balancing act, right, of like kind of what we're doing. And for most people, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I would say that like for most people that are opposed to for people that are opposed to the basically like the Green New Deal and stuff like that, right? If you're opposed to green energy, green building practices, that kind of stuff, if you're opposed to that and you like to eat steak, that is your parallel right there. Like, if you want to have availability for us to eat and grow and farm more steak, which I personally am a fan of. And to those of you out there that would be like, you could go vegan, it's something that you could do. Yes, you can. And I know from personal experience, I was a vegan for over 5 years because I wanted to experience it. I wanted to know if it was something that I could do, if it was something that could be accomplished. And yes, but I am an omnivore and have made the actual decision to go like, yes, I eat a lot of vegetables. Yes, I eat a lot of rice and stuff like that. But I also like to eat animal products such as like steak and chicken and pork and whatnot. That's just my personal take on it. But to all those people out there that like that, I would say now's a good opportunity to at least get some ideas of some green energy sources, practices, things that we could do so that we could continue our meat agriculture that we all like to enjoy, and have a balanced farming system that is a good system, that is robust, that has important things, safety protocols, standards for the animals, all of the things that I'm trying to convey without having thought about this ahead of time. But those things that need to be in place in order to have a healthy, robust system to continue going on. And I think it's a good opportunity that if we go, hey, maybe we get, if we get away from 50% of our gas burning or something, that would give us an opportunity to maybe expand our food agriculture. And maybe this is an opportunity for certain people that want to make a career change to maybe doing something within agriculture. There are a lot of subsidized programs out there to get into farming, and that might actually be a good point. Who was it? I was talking to about their homestead earlier. It's Fishy. I think it was Fishy Fun 57's homestead. I'm sorry, I forget. But we were talking about the homestead. That might be a great spot. That might be a great spot to start out for your homestead. You might be able to get a subsidy to potentially hire somebody to help you out with getting your homestead property going. That might be a thing. So that's definitely what I would personally look into that. And I'm sorry I didn't think about that earlier, but that is something that I would definitely look into. So hopefully you're still here and check that out. Yeah. Joel G says, a career change to accounting. He's just going right back to the same dealy bobber. But Gil, you're a fantastic accountant. If you were in America, I would hire you. I'd hire you to be my accountant. But I don't think I can have New Zealanders do my tax preparation for me and stuff. I don't think so. To our valued CenturyLink customers. I don't know what this is all about. I don't know. I just got a stupid email from my... whatever, that's dumb. I'm not worried about that. We're coming up on the end of the show because it's almost been 2 hours and I have to go pee. So that's just how it is. Fishy Fun. Steak is expensive. I eat chicken. It's more affordable. I ate steak when living on the farm. Yes, homestead used to graze cattle. Yep. Yeah. Family breaks down one cow, split it through the family. So that's a good way to do that. If you can't afford steak, it's a great way to do that. Maybe get some community going and butcher a whole cow and split it between maybe like 4 families. That gives you, it's a lot. And does work out to be a good deal for everybody. So I don't know. Maybe that's weird or maybe it's not. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, we're coming up on the end of the show, so I'm just going to give a shout out to everybody who, let's see. So Moonstone, dude, $20 super chat. That's wild. Danikin Aquatics, $5 super chat. Joel G, $2. And Dan Squire, £5 super chats of the day. Thank you very much, guys. It really helps out. It really helps out big time because I'm sure I got demonetized for something I said during the show. Where did my chat go? I lost my chat window. I've lost my chat window. Oh, there it is. Let's bring it back. We'll bring it back old school style. And then if I go like this, does it go back? Man, my live chat does not work anymore. So sorry, I can't read the live chat, guys. Terry's Tropical Tanks and Tiffany White, thank you very much for becoming members. I appreciate it. Hit that like button on the way out so that we know that you liked it or not. But either way, then we'll know. And I will talk to you all on the flip side on the tomorrow or Wednesday or I don't know. I'm going to do these coffee break shows whenever I can. All right, later.